Mr. Mayor, we are live.
Good evening, everybody. I will do the Pledge of Allegiance tonight. If we could, it's 6:30 p.m. If we could all rise and place your right hand over your heart. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call. Mr. Russi.
Yes. Councilmember Davis.
Present.
Councilmember Crosby.
Present.
Councilmember Lau.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Carter.
Present.
Mayor Hepburn.
Present.
Okay.
Do we have any announcements or of upcoming community events, Mr. Russi?
We have one that I'm aware of, and it was Sherry Best, I believe.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, Sherry Best. Sherry, go ahead.
Good evening, Ms. Best.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, and I'm speaking as the President of the Laverne Historical Society. We are pleased to announce that the book, Laverne, that Bill Lemon and I worked on for a couple of years, written by Bill and the Historical Society, is available for purchase now for $20. The Historical Society is sponsoring a book signing at Coons Park on Saturday, December 5th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. So in addition to its book, the Laverne Historical Society will be selling its t-shirts and also jelly and marmalade made from locally grown fruit and apple cider from Oak Glen. So please contact me, and you can go to the website to get my email address or call me at area code 909-596-4679 to reserve a time to make your purchase. We are arranging reservations for 15-minute intervals at no more than 10 persons per group. I did send a flyer to the city manager. I think he'll put it up on his website, and I hope that you support your city and do some holiday shopping in this safe and socially distanced event. We will require that attendees wear masks. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I will attest too that the marmalade is probably some of the best I've had. And it's not for everybody, but the other jams they have too are excellent, but the marmalade is just amazing. So anyway, thank you very much. Any other announcements?
Not aware of any, JR.
None received, sir.
Then we shall move to we'll close this and we'll go to the consent calendar. Are there anything pulled, Mr. Russi?
Nothing.
Nothing at all? Any council have any concerns or want to pull any items off the consent calendar? And with that, I need a motion.
I move that we approve the consent calendar as written.
I'll second it.
Councilmember Carter, second. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. Motion carries. And Councilmember Carter, did you want to speak, or Mr. Davis, did you want to speak first regarding what you're talking?
I'll let Robin go. Councilmember Carter, the floor is yours.
Oh, thank you. Under consent calendar, we had Carolyn Cockrell to be appointed to two of the committees that her and I sit on together, and that's Tri-City Mental Health and then also our Youth and Family Action Committee. And she's been a very important aspect to both committees. I am so happy she's committed another 2 years. I thank her, and we are so honored to have her there. And also, I enjoy her company. We have a good time together. We take care of business, and she looks out for the best of Laverne, and she's a great representative.
Thank you, Councilmember Carter. Councilmember Davis.
Yes, I'll just make mine short since Robin did such a nice job. I just wanted to lift up Carolyn Cockrell in these two committees. She does a wonderful job with our children. She has a mind out for our residents, both in the youth action as well as mental health. So thank you, Carolyn, for signing up and serving our city. Thank you.
Thank you all very much. So thank you. Thank you. We are going to recess to the Laverne Public Financing Authority, following which the City Council will immediately reconvene. Mr. Russi.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, JR is going to handle this item, but essentially what you have up for consideration is the operating agreement for the 2 mobile home parks that the city does own. But JR will give the staff report on this.
Yes, thank you. Good evening, members of the Laverne Public Financing Authority. I don't get to call you that except a couple times a year, usually just with the budget, but for tonight I do get to use that. The Financing Authority is the owner of Laverne Mobile Country Club and Valley Rancho Mobile Home Parks. Both are currently operated by Haven Management, which is the professional management company for the day-to-day functions of both of those properties. As of October 31st, the long-term agreement to operate those parks has basically expired, requiring the city to undergo a request for proposal process. The city received proposals from Basier and Kassenheiser as well as from Haven, the current operator. Both companies are highly regarded in the industry and are well equipped to provide the services needed to operate the parks and are both owned by very good people. I want to thank both for their thoughtful proposals and doing a diligent job through the evaluation phase. In summary, Basier and Kassenheiser's proposals included a fee of approximately $13,000 less annually in comparison to Haven's proposal. Basier and Kassenheiser also proposed to use a regional manager for the primary contact of the parks, where Haven's owner would be the primary contact. Both proposals were for a 5-year term. It should also be noted, staff met with the Homeowners Committee at Laverne Mobile. You guys are probably familiar with that arrangement. The Homeowners Committee shared they preferred Haven Management despite the higher fee because of the accessibility that Haven has offered in the past, as well as the quality of services that they've offered historically. After reviewing the proposals and interviewing representatives from both companies, the Mobile Home Liaison Committee directed staff to put together a report to the full authority body for making that selection. However, staff received word from Basier and Kassenheiser this past Friday after the agenda was already set that they wanted to remove their name from further consideration. And so, considering Basier and Kassenheiser's request to be removed from consideration, staff recommends the Laverne Public Financing Authority select Haven Management, as well as approve JPFA 59 and JPFA 60, authorizing the city manager to finalize an agreement for asset and management services. Because when the report was prepared, we didn't have the ability to basically share the final terms with the company. That's why we need that leeway to go back and finalize those agreements instead of giving you the agreements tonight for approval. So we feel that they will be basically identical to the previous agreements. The only real big difference would be Valley Ranchos was it wasn't a long term. I believe it was a month-to-month type of agreement, whereas these would both be for 5-year terms. And I'm available to answer any questions that the members might have. I do know we have at least one public comment for this item too.
I think I would like to go to public comment. We can get that on the line, and then we can come back.
Give me 1 second, and we'll work with the assistant city clerk to get that going. Hold on, please. Mr. Mayor, I have Rick Bowen on the line.
Mr. Bowen, good evening.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. I have just a couple of questions. You talked about the bid process and the savings of $13,000. What is the total annual revenue generated by these bids?
The projected income combined for both properties is just over $2 million estimated.
Annually or 5 years?
Annually.
$2 million annually. Okay. And then you mentioned, JR mentioned that the homeowners, he met with the homeowners and that they wanted the higher price ones because they got representation and et cetera. I'm curious, do the homeowners pay anything for this service?
I
The
guess
actual mobile home.
Can we get all the questions and then we will go to answering them?
Sorry?
We'll get all the questions and concerns and then we'll answer those all at once.
Well, actually, question depends on what the answer is.
If you could just give them the questions you have, Mr. Bowen, just and then we'll move forward with that.
Sorry?
If you could just give them the question that you have, and if there's something that's not covered, we can cover it. Talk about it again.
Okay, so my question is this. You went to the Homeowners Association and they wanted the more expensive one, the more expensive bid. But my question is, do they pay anything? I'm in a homeowners association. I pay a monthly fee. And then, based on no answer, isn't it true that the residents of Laverne, actually, all the residents, not the mobile home park people, actually pay for any difference, actually for the whole thing? So I guess those are my two questions. I'll try to listen to see if I can get a response. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bowen.
Is that the only public comment that we have, JR?
it looks like one just came through. Let me see if it's for this item. That looks like we did have one that just came through, but it looks like it's for regular public comment, not for this item.
Public comment?
Yeah.
So nothing else on this item?
Right, and I can answer, Bob, if you would like me to. I can take a shot at that.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a little different. When we present the budget each year, I always kind of end my presentation with that these are independent of the city's funds, these properties. That to answer the question in a simple manner, yes, the residents in that mobile home park are the ones that are paying for this management services. Their rents that they pay is what funds the operations of the park and is what pays for the management company.
And I think it's worth clarifying that the city, the way the bond is structured, I'm talking about Laverne Mobile in itself, the city has affordable housing dollars that go to pay part of that bond. The other part of that bond is the responsibility of the rents that are generated from the park itself. So the city actually does not subsidize. It has a responsibility on the bond to remain an affordability covenant of the park, but the rents themselves are what produce a majority of that bond payment, as well as then all the improvements that are done within the park. It's not the city's general fund that bears any burden.
That comes out of the operating budget of the parks.
And Valley Rancho is there's no even affordable housing funds that are used. It is all the operating costs and any expenses associated with that operation are borne through the revenues that are generated from that property itself.
Okay. JR, do we have any other public comment?
Make sure I'll do one more refresh to see if anything comes through. I'm not seeing anything.
Okay. Then we'll go ahead and close public comment and we'll bring it back to council. Do we have council comments for JR or Mr. Russi?
Tim, I was just going to say that it made our decision easier tonight because I actually felt to save $13,000 is something we needed to look at. But I was happy to hear that the residents wanted to have Haven. So, they're the ones that you have to deal with, the management company all the time. And we do know him, John, he's excellent with Haven. And so I think everyone will benefit from this move.
Thank you, Councilmember Carter. Any comments from council?
Yes, I'll go ahead and say that I appreciated both Bessenheiser I always get these two mixed.
Bezier.
Bezier and Kassenheiser. I always get the last parts mixed up. And Haven both made very strong proposals and presentations. I felt that with the revenue of about $2 million, that 13,000 was de minimis, especially with some of the writers in the Bezier and Kassenheiser proposal that could have eliminated that potentially. But I don't think the residents of the mobile home parks would have seen much, if any, difference between the two firms. But I'm happy that we're going to have Haven management.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Any other comments from council? Mr. Crosby, Councilmember Lau.
Tim, I'd like to say one thing just for clarification.
Yes,
I want to make it clear that, because I've talked before about being the president of the HOA, our management company here is Haven Management, but it's a different firm than this one. They're two different management companies. So I just want that out there so that people know.
Thank you for that clarification. Thank
It's a
you.
piece of weird Laverne trivia where there are two Haven management companies, both on Archibald. One's in Rancho and one's in Ontario.
Not related to each other.
No.
Councilmember Lau, any comments?
No, thank you.
Councilmember Crosby.
No, thank you.
I just want to thank, this is a process, it's called bidding process and an RFP, and I really appreciate that. I'm disappointed that Bashir and Kassenheiser dropped out. They're an exceptionally good company, as Haven is also, and the biggest nuance was the fact that they have a regional approach where Haven Management has a basically monthly management approach, and both good companies. But I want to thank JR. I want to thank Mr. Russi. I want to thank staff, and I want to thank Mr. Davis for, we did meet a number of times. This is a process. I'm sure we'll be doing it again, but this is how it works. And sometimes at the end of the discussion or the end of the contract, people drop off. Happens all the time. They just say, okay, I think that they probably felt that when the homeowners association and that they wanted their own management company back, and I can appreciate that. I really do. But I want to thank staff. It was a lot of work. It does take a lot of work, and if it was to go the other way, it would be work for staff and the city, and a change for the homeowners council. But I want to thank staff. It's a lot of work. I appreciate the process, and we'll probably be doing this again. But thank you all for doing that. I think it was the right thing to do, and we went through the process and did our due diligence. And again, thank you to JR. Thank you to Mr. Russi. It went well, and we basically we moved forward. So I need any other discussion. I need a motion to approve these resolution number JPFA 59, resolution number JPFA 60. One motion.
Yes. I so move.
Mr. Crosby, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Councilmember Davis, all those in favor, raise your right hand. Aye. All those opposed? The motion carries. We will reconvene back into our council meeting at 6:49 p.m. We'll close the Public Finance Authority, and we move back and reconvene to our city council meeting. And before we start with public comments or communications, I just wanted to make a note, Mr. Russi, that we all did receive emails from Mr. Bowen, Rick Bowen, and Mr. Gibson, Zach Gibson, regarding district voting. And I'd like to get that on the agenda as soon as we can. Can you comment on that? And can we look at this?
Yes, I think it would be reasonable for us to be able to get this on your next agenda. We can have that scheduled for a study session, just for there to be information shared with council, questions asked from that standpoint, but nothing more than that. But we can certainly get that set up for you. Would council be available for a 5 o'clock rather than doing it during a regular meeting time?
Thumbs up.
We will get
Everybody,
it.
is that okay?
Mirrors check calendar.
Mirrors check.
Perfect.
Okay, we're in.
We'll get it done. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. And then let's go to public comments and communication. Do we have public comments, JR?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we do. It looks like we have, I believe it's 6 people that will be calling in. Just like to remind everybody out there, if you are wanting to make a public comment, there is about a 30-second to a minute delay. So please email us now to help us facilitate making sure that everybody gets a chance to speak timely. And because I just presented that last item, my thanks to Lupe. She's going to be kind of filtering everybody into me. So I apologize if there is a little bit of a lag in between. But the first person will be Gary Hunter. Mr. Hunter, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, you are live with the City Council.
Good evening, Mr. Hunter.
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Hunter.
Yeah, this is Gary Hunter. I've got 2 issues here. One is for Bob Rossi. This address, 4529 Emerald. They need some serious weed problems down there and tree trimming. In order to cross the side of the place, you have to stoop down or walk out into the street to get by. That's a pretty simple one. And the next one is for Mr. Hepburn. I'm thinking your party will, like a bug on a rug, as happy as can be. You got city council. It took you a year and a half to screw up the fire department. I was really upset that the city council went ahead and backed this thing, even entertaining having the city come in here, or the county come in here. I was really upset about that. Is there some kind of a way that you can have a election where the people can vote to save our fire department? I was upset with the city council going with this thing. Evidently, they never used them and had to use them. They're a great bunch of people. So, is there some kind of election you can have? We can take care of this matter. The city can vote, not just you people. I'd really appreciate that. Y'all have a good evening.
Thank you, Mr. Hunter.
Thank you, Mr. Hunter. Mr. Mayor, I have Terry Prentice.
Mr. Prentice, good evening.
Good evening. Good evening, council members, Mr. Rusty. I wish to address the proposed tax of the fire system. First, I'd like to address statements made to the public and to the press. The statement that we have been using mutual aid from LA County Fire all the time. This is not supported by the factual situation. If we have been using it for emergency medical responses, then we are in violation of the statewide mutual aid tax that requires every agency to utilize all their resources before calling in resources from the outside. Parking 3 rescue ambulances does not remove them from our resources. We need a better approach. The only times Laverne Fire should be calling in mutual aid is for wildfires and or structure fires. The statewide mutual aid pact, of which LA County Fire is signatory, recognizes that no fire agency can meet every emergency need that arises, and that is the basis for the mutual aid pact. Over the years, we have had Laverne firefighters respond to other agencies' requests for mutual aid for long periods of time to things such as fighting wildfires. A more realistic way to look at mutual aid is neighboring cities to realize that we are getting mutual aid support from cities such as Glendora, San Dimas, Claremont, and Pomona. They contract with LA County Fire to provide their fire suppression needs, and those cities are the ones who are paying and providing for that mutual aid protection. At the last election, 3 of you spoke publicly about protecting our citizenry, supporting our police and fire departments, and keeping them under local control. You also supported a local sales tax increase that was to be used to protect our public safety departments, along with other pressing needs such as competitive pay compensation for all our public employees. We, the citizens, supported and passed that measure. Now it's changed. Those promises may remain unfulfilled. I appreciate that some of you have had conversations regarding this measure with some of our fire department personnel that have taken their thoughts into consideration. But I will remind you that fire departments across this nation have a long tradition of how fire departments are staffed and operated. And those traditional thoughts have not changed in the past several decades. which has led to complacency in dealing with necessary change. For instance, NFPA standards are heavily influenced by high-level fire department executives of large eastern cities and insurance industry executives. The standards are basically designed by and for large East Coast communities with high-rise business buildings and high-rise housing, with many homes and structures dating back decades and centuries, along with narrow roadways that run in odd and confusing angles. With much more density of structures, there is a much greater danger of fire spreading to other buildings in close proximity, and moving a denser population to safety requires many more firefighters. This is not the situation in much of Southern California, not here in Laverne. There's much more to be considered, and I will be addressing some of these in future presentations. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Prentice.
Thank you, Mr. Prentice.
You hear my dog, sorry.
Mr. Mayor, I have Kathy Kalusik on the line. Go ahead, Kathy.
Ms. Kalusik, good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. Thank you very much. Obviously, I was disappointed by last meeting's vote regarding the fire service, but since I was only one of 6 people that called in, I felt that maybe the other Laverne citizens just don't care. Then this weekend, when I was looking through the packet for tonight's meeting and I looked at the minutes from the November 2nd meeting, I saw that there were 22 emails with similar opposition as mine. So I'm asking that before we spend $24,000 pushing us to county services, you please bring this back to council. I now feel that the majority of citizens just weren't aware of the significance of this vote. I'd like to know that all options have been exhausted before we let this go. We definitely are going to need some out-of-the-box thinking to make this work for all involved. So I was thinking about this all day, but then at 5:30 today, a thought popped into my head, wondering, is there any grant money available? So I Googled grants for firefighters, and it led me to the FEMA website. My apologies if somebody has already looked at this and we don't qualify, but there's a grant listed as Staffing for Adequate Fire and Emergency Response, or SAFER. The goal of SAFER is to enhance the local fire department's abilities to comply with staffing. I looked at the list of organizations. A lot of them were out of state, but one of the California ones was City of Murrieta, who received over $2 million on September 14, 2020. Since lack of adequate staff is one of our issues that's been mentioned, maybe this is something that could help us. I've read other people's emails and I've heard comments from other community members after the study session completed with some interesting suggestions. Maybe we could create a committee to help the council look into other options so we make sure we don't miss anything. I know that the goal of the council and the majority of our community is the well-being of our citizens and our first responders. Let's work together to make sure we're choosing the best option for all involved. And I would be happy to discuss this further with council or any other people that are interested. Feel free to reach out with me anytime. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Kalusik.
Mr. Mayor, I have Linda Wilkinson on the line. Linda, go ahead.
Good evening, Ms. Wilkinson.
Linda Lockhart Wilkinson, 32-year Laverne resident and owner of 5 historic homes in Laverne. I'd like to give an update on the proposal to save the historic house at 2109 White Avenue by moving it to the corner of 1st and F Streets and creating Lordsburg Heritage Square. This third of an acre corner parcel is where the oldest wood house in Laverne from 1885 is located. I hired an architect the day after the council meeting when the fate of the White Avenue house was on the agenda. It was decided to extend the demolition for 90 days. A few days later, I met with the architect and a contractor at the property, along with Janine Jackson, who resides there. The architect prepared the site plan drawings to show several options of placing the White Avenue house along with the bungalow next to it on the corner of First and F Street. The site plans allow space for one more historic house to be moved to the First Street property sometime in the future. The beginning of last week, I received an update. The proposal was in the city's legal department, and there should be a response in a few days. On Friday, Principal Planner Candace Bocock confirmed that the zoning of my property allows for the addition of the White Avenue house and bungalow. I believe without the assistance, diligence, and hard work of Candace Bocock, this would not be happening. The next step is to complete the development application and apply for the precise plan. Again, thank you to Candace Bocock for a job well done. Good night.
Thank you, Ms. Wilkinson.
Mr. Mayor, I have Rick Bowen on the line. Mr. Bowen, go ahead.
Mr. Bowen, good evening again.
Good evening. I just want to say thank you for the answers to my last question. It still would be great if we could ask questions and get answers not face to face even, but even on the Zoom versus having to give a list of questions that may not be needed if there was answers. So, but I do thank you for the answers. I just noticed that Mayor Hepburn put the agenda request in for the district voting. Just as a note, on October 7th, I made that request in writing to all the council members and the mayor. I received a note back from Robin Carter that said received. I received a note back from Councilperson Davis that he did not support district voting. I received one back from Crosby that said he did support it, and I received something back from Mayor Hepburn that said he supported it. Yet no one put it on the agenda, and I find that disturbing because the council made the ruling a year or so ago that citizens would have to go through them to get something on the agenda. As I said, I made the request on October 7th. Today's the 16th of November, and I appreciate you getting it on there, Mr. Hepburn, and I appreciate Mr. Russey's promise to have it on the next one. I find it interesting that you have enough information to have a study session in a couple of weeks, but could not respond to my request in writing or Zach Gibson's request in video on during the last council meeting. So I would hope all of the council is more representative, and in fact, the more I learn about district voting, it seems like that's exactly what we need, because I don't feel the southeast corner of our city having 3 representatives is good for the city, and look forward to having a district that I could have somebody to support my issues and others' issues as they pertain to different parts of the city. Okay, I thank you. Thank you for listening.
Mr. Mayor, I have Zach Gibson on the line. Mr. Gibson?
Good evening, everybody. I just had one quick thing to say. As we are entering the holiday season, the city has begun to use imagery in its informational material for residents, noticeably in the agenda for the annual tree lighting ceremony. specific to only one religion or ideological system. And it got me thinking about that. Now that we have a committee specifically designed, or designated rather, to cultural awareness and social inclusion, pushing for a more #diverse Laverne, I am disappointed that no effort has been made for this year's celebrations to be more broadly diverse. I would like the city, along with our annual pre-lighting ceremony, to include other festivals of light, such as a menorah lighting. Let's use this resource to implement some visible progress and inclusivity for our city this holiday season and for the rest of those moving forward. And to finish this off, I'd just like to say a happy Diwali to all those who are celebrating, and thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Gibson.
Mr. Mayor, that concludes what we had received via email for requests to be called.
Okay, we will wait just about 20 seconds and then we will close. We'll go ahead and close public comment and we'll move to council comments. If someone would like to start council comments, please go right ahead. Councilmember Davis.
Oh, go, Rick, you can go first.
No.
Mine will be nice and short. Sorry. Thank you, Mayor. Just want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving and be safe out there. COVID's on the rise right now. I'm seeing it quite a bit with my work and with more of family units all getting it. People that have been very, very careful out there, but when another person comes in to that family unit, it's been spreading through them. So just be very, very careful, and wish everybody a safe and happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you, Mr. Crosby. Mr. Davis.
Yes, I will join Councilmember Crosby in wishing everybody a happy Thanksgiving. And yes, it is indeed unfortunate that it feels like we're moving backwards and not forwards through this battle with COVID-19. I do want to make a thankful statement to all of you who got out and participated in our election on November 3rd. We set a record. 145 million people voted, and that is a huge number compared to elections past. So thank you for engaging in our small d democratic process. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Councilmember Carter.
Yes. With Thanksgiving coming up, I know it feels to a lot of people that it's not much to celebrate or to be thankful for, but we actually all have something to be thankful for. And I think that's where we all need, with our family, with kids, focus on what we have in our lives to be thankful for. And it gives us a new mission to look at. What a lot of groups are doing, I know my church is doing it, and I'm sure others are, there's families out there in need. And so instead of bringing canned goods to your church, whatever foods that you typically collect, we're asking for donations. And then that money will be given in a gift card to families that are in need. So I suggest to everyone, reach out to somebody that you could possibly help. That'll make you feel good, and it'll be a great Thanksgiving for you and your family. Teach your children about giving and helping out one another. The one area too that I worked on since March was sowing seeds for life, helping them find volunteers to help with the food donations for the distribution at the Fairplex. Well, they're really in need of people. A lot of the people, I'd say 95% of the people that I had for volunteers have gone back to work or are unable to help. So they reached out to me today and asked if I could, put it out there that if there's anyone that would like to volunteer, the next one is this Wednesday coming up, and that's the 18th. And they need help from 7:30 a.m. until about 11:30. And it's at the Fairplex right off White Avenue. There's cones that will direct you in. They need help, and this will be something that you would really love. They do ask for anyone 18 and older to come. So if you can do that, you don't have to contact me, just show up and just bring a mask. They've got gloves for you, and they will direct you on what to do. And I'll tell you, it just warms your heart to know that you can help others that way. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Carter, and thank you for doing that. That's we don't say that enough. Thank you for what you do and helping sowing seeds. It's huge. The amount of people that come and get food is just unbelievable, and how much food they go through. But thank you for our efforts in doing that. It's definitely a wonderful thing for our community. Councilmember Lau.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to echo some of the sentiments on this call already. As Zach Gibson did point out, it was Diwali this Saturday, so happy Diwali to all those that celebrate. Happy Thanksgiving for those that celebrate Thanksgiving in the coming weeks. I know it's going to be a very different holiday for many of us and much smaller, but I think that's important to remember as we are trying to continue to combat COVID-19 and keep everybody safe despite the rising numbers. My only other plug for my comments would be for those of you that are golfers and are interested in golfing for a good cause, the University of Laverne is hosting its golf tournament. However, it is virtual in the sense that we are not all congregating at the same time, but Red Hill Country Club has given us specific tee times so that you can take your foursome, so maybe whoever you normally might golf with, so you're not interacting with other folks. And you can look online at Laverne's website for that information. But the monies raised will go to student scholarships, which I'm sure as many of you can appreciate. This has been a very difficult time for a lot of people, including students. Not only do they have to experience a very different academic year than they've ever had before, that any of us have ever had. They may have jobs that they've lost. Families may have lost jobs as well. And so being able to pursue their education is much more difficult than it might be in a normal year. So if you're interested, I encourage you to look up the University of Laverne's website and look for golf tournament and sign up for a tee time. I believe the last day to register is this Friday. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Lau. I just want to say thank you to my council for, it's a lot of time we put in. It's a lot of meetings. Some of the stuff we have to deal with is very controversial. But at the end of the day, I do appreciate that we all can talk, discuss, come to resolution, bounce ideas off each other. It's very important. And thank for the staff that puts the stuff together, that makes sure these meetings go well. And just all the stuff they do to make sure that our council has the information to do these meetings. But again, I want to thank my council that it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. It's dedication. But it pays off when we do it right, and we at least go through the process and listen to our residents, listen to our staff, and do the things we need to do to make the decisions, good decisions for all the residents. But thank you again. I want to thank and I want to wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving. Be safe out there. It's a different one, but we'll all get through it. We'll get through these holidays. And as Councilman Carter, reach out to those people out there that you don't see or talk to often. Reach out to those friends. It's easy for a phone call. It's easy for a text. Just reach out to those people. Help those that you can help while social distancing. I also was invited by the Knights of Columbus. They had a mass on Saturday at 11 o'clock. And what they celebrated, basically all of the armed forces, but their celebration was the Merchant Marines this time. It was very nice. They did a great job distancing. They had some of our band of brothers. They did taps. They had the gun salute. They did a fantastic job. It was nice to be there. It was nice to be asked to go there, but they did a very, very nice job. And on the last thing, even in Laverne, you can have a 110-pound tortoise walking down your street, and you have to, and if you've ever picked up a 110-pound tortoise, it's 110 pounds. Just so you know, with those four legs that go like this. I called the city. We had apparently the Landys had their tortoise come all the way down our street, which is 1,000 feet, come into our neighborhood. The thing was running like a dog. I couldn't believe it. And we actually got into the yard. Animal control came out, but the owners came, and it's a crack up. I haven't seen a tortoise before, so I was waiting for Tyrannosaurus Rex. So anyway, thank you all. We are going to adjourn to a study session on December 7th at 5:00 p.m. for the short-term rentals. So if there's no other comments, we will adjourn at 7:16 p.m. And thank you.
Not for the short-term rentals. Districting.
I'm sorry. Districting. Well, I got short-term rentals on my mind. The districting. Thank you very much.
Did the owners throw a leash on that tortoise or what?
Yeah. Oh, I tried. I tried to put him on a dolly. His legs that doesn't work. Doesn't work. So, but everyone have a safe and happy Thanksgiving. And thank you all for all your help and support. Thank you, staff. Thank you, Mr. Kress. Everyone have a blessed holiday. We're adjourned at 7:16 p.m.
Have a good night.
Thank you all. You all too.